Armando Lannucci's Charm Offensive, presented by Armando Lannucci.
I've got to say hello. And welcome to Charm Offensive, voted by readers of the Radio Times as Britain's third tidiest satire show. It's actually been quite a time for lists recently. Jonathan Ross has this week been designated the most powerful man in radio, while his brother Paul has been judged the television personality least likely to be chosen for cloning were humanity to go infertile. Meanwhile, I'm very proud to say I've been judged by a panel of comedy experts, the second funniest man in Britain's radio show, Charm Offensive. So, to help you decide who came higher, let's meet this week's panel, which includes two bright young comic talents, which, perhaps by means of this very recording, will go on to have increasingly successful careers as cutting-edge comedians until 20 years from now they make a fortune writing the words to West End musicals based on the songs of Massive Attack. And to balance that, there's also someone older than me. So please welcome David Mitchell, Will Smith and John Sessions.
Hello.
And let's start by looking at the increasing madness of Sir Bob Geldof. Recently voted by the readers of The Economist as Britain's sloppiest nutter. Now, Geldof started the week only slightly mad by claiming that world poverty can be ended if 1 million people marched on Edinburgh, a city that has 1 million people anyway. But asking Edinburgh to march on itself would sound stupid, wouldn't it, Bob? Yes, it would, but not as stupid as what you then did, which was suggest the best way to march on Edinburgh was by rowing a boat to France. So the question for the team is, how mad is this charity-based mentalist? Will?
By suggesting that everyone goes to France and boats and picks up people and bring them back, is he not assuming there that people in France don't have boats of their own? Which they could just come over anyway?
Yes, perhaps he's assuming France is part of the third world.
Yes.
Yes.
You see, Bob has missed a crucial gimmick for Live Aid, which is a very serious subject. Let's not be frivolous about this. Celebrity boat people. I mean, people with boats who are kind of famous, and there's... You've got Branson's bars, you've got Ted Heath. I mean, he stays awake all night worrying about Africa.
But Ted Heath has been stockpiling food inside his own body.
He's also got a slight problem, I think, with the logo as well, because I think it does possibly look like it's a Scale Extra convention with a little bit of folk music. And you could get some rather puzzled people in cagoules there. Apart from Bob's hairdresser.
Just Bob's hairdresser wears a cagoule. Presumably because whatever equipment is required to make that tremendous effect involves a certain amount of water or some wet substance splatting onto him.
It is like an old wig that you usually keep for the fool in King Lear.
So I think it's more damaging than that. The heavy implication in Bob Geldof's haircut is that he thinks we should all be looking like that.
Yes.
That is, in his mind, the way to be, and he's quietly waiting for us to get the idea about having crazy hair like the back of a blind cat that can no longer clean itself.
Because they are getting slightly more megalomaniac. Because Bob Geldof, this is quite true, literally put Midge Ure in charge of Scotland this week, which sort of implies that he thinks he's head of some world government.
But I think he's saying the real power doesn't lie in the established forms of government. It lies in the man who, by swearing, can make credulous people assemble. And I think if there's one thing history shows us, it's that is absolutely true.
Yes. I think Geldof is at his most entertaining when he's cross and swearing. So actually, to make July the 2nd more entertaining, maybe we should launch a campaign to annoy the hell out of Bob Geldof, just so that we can wipe the scowl onto his face. Do anything. Book him in for a haircut. If you see an African, take money off him. Just anything. Just wonder if anyone had any thoughts on...
Well, rearrange Live 8 for a Monday. He hates that. Or we could all have a whip round and pay off the debt before July the 2nd.
You could confuse everyone by putting signs outside Edinburgh saying, "Welcome to Glasgow." Right, well, I think we've resolved that issue once and for all. OK. Oh, I just want to go back, actually. I mentioned at the top of the show, lists. List mania. As I said at the top of the show, there are more and more greatest ever lists and top 100s of all time being issued. And as a result, dark matter is now only the second most prevalent substance in the universe after Jimmy Carr. Lists on Radio 4 at the moment. For example, Melvin Bragg is launching a search to find the world's best philosopher. And this morning, Michael Burke's Moral Maze announced the results of his quest to find the nation's 50 favourite ethical dilemmas. Here's a brief extract.
What is the ideal size for a fair, just and prosperous human community? 9. Is the nation-state a recipe for war? 8. Banning fox hunting.
7. So, Charm Offensive has decided this week to put an end to these arguments once and for all, because by the end of tonight's show, we're going to publish the definitive list of the top 10 best things ever. Yes, tonight, all debates will be settled. Are desks better than cummerbunds? Will guns be rated higher than olives? Which is best, helium or the Daily Mail on fire? Tonight, we find out. We've asked a carefully selected panel of expert members of the audience who got in here for free to write down their nominations for the best thing ever. Or while you're doing that, we can read some out that's been texted to us. Just looking at the votes already. Sky Plus is at number 34, just above the sound of church bells landing on vicars.
Oh, here's a nice one. A tie between sliced bread, sex, Star Wars, and that bit where Del Boy falls over.
Someone here thinks it's the beeping noise lorries make when they reverse. Unless you are deaf, in which case you still get run over and killed. They point out.
I've got a very keen person who's got 3 here. I presume it's a man, I don't know why. Moustaches, kings, and Battenberg cake.
Someone's written, Mr. Paxman at a parking meter swearing at it. Actually, I forgot to point out, we're actually going to be putting some of these nominations to our own digital Jimmy Carr, who we've got standing by. Isn't that right, Jimmy?
Yeah.
I must read out, we'll come back to some of these other ones that have come out. I must read out an email nomination from Jeff in Dumfries, who says, the best thing ever was watching a Top Gear outtake in which Jeremy Clarkson's doing a piece to camera from the driver's seat, holding a pewter tankard full of sulfuric acid to demonstrate the smoothness of the car's suspension when the airbag suddenly goes off. What do you think of that one, Jimmy?
If that's the kind of thing you like, then it was brilliant.
Jimmy, are you getting lippy?
Yeah, I like to think so.
OK, well, we'll come back to this fascinating competition later. Now, this next round's called Russell Crowe. Russell Crook, more like. And it's called that because, of course, this week saw Russell Crowe join Christian Slater and Michael Jackson in police custody in a move that would make the Hollywood Remand Centre look like a celebrity version of Celebrity Love Island. I'd like to ask the panel, which celebrity in this week of all weeks would they like to see in prison?
The Archbishop of Canterbury, Rowan Williams, for hijacking a commercial dirigible.
Are you still on the 100 best things ever? Is this something that's happened, or...?
Yes, he thought he'd got over his Robert Shaw obsession when he watched Jaws a couple of times. And then he saw the one where Robert Shaw is the bad guy in the dirigible, where he is actually holding New York to ransom. And in a Damascene moment, the Archbishop of Canterbury goes, "This is how we get people back into the church. God is great over every country."
Just want to interrupt you there. What the hell are you talking about? Right, David.
Sorry, I've forgotten the question.
Sorry, David, you were just looking at me
a
in a funny
network
way.
of dirigible routes, bringing people to churches on a Sunday in a way that isn't noisy, so that atheists don't get woken up. It's a perfect plan, but it's a shame that the Archbishop chose to launch it through theft.
Will.
Jade Goody in a mobile prison that serves as a reminder of what happens if you're raised on junk food and ITV.
I just love the idea of Delia Smith slopping out.
Yeah.
I don't know
You
why
can
I just
get
think...
that online. I think it would be much more interesting to send nice celebrities to prison, because then we could enjoy the sort of dignity of their suffering and then, you know, pushing through and becoming better humans despite being sent to prison for a crime they didn't commit, or indeed not for a crime but just because they were sent there by a panel show. So I'd like someone, you know, really nice, like Michael Palin.
Yeah.
You know, I think he's...
Is he really that nice, Michael Palin?
He gets his kit off quite a lot.
He does a lot of
in the Himalayas.
He's got a
and
good
things,
figure for a man of his age.
And he bathes in
So my mother says.
Yes.
Yeah, I thought so too. He looked like he'd be pretty good in squash.
Yeah, I love girls.
Well, Jimmy Savile could be there just to remind...
Careful.
Yeah.
Yes. Just quite.
He's in his own mental prison, though, isn't he, really?
Yes.
So what was it with Russell Crowe, then? He threw a phone
at a hotel porter because he couldn't get through to Australia, which was clearly the porter's fault.
It was probably because he'd seen the porter behind a desk marked reception, and he thought he was in
Yeah,
charge.
that's it.
You've got to have a bit of sympathy for him, because as a big film star and colossally arrogant Australian, the Australians don't seem to get on very well mentally with becoming actors. It does seem to make them, because they'd rather, you know, kill sharks for a living.
It's the same thing as well when you fly Qantas, you know, and you go for dessert or whatever, and the bloke serving it goes, well, we've got jelly and ice cream, or we've got a Black Forest Gallo. I'm not a puff, you know, just because I do it.
I killed this lamb myself.
Yeah.
By bursting it.
I mean, people got about him losing his temper and all the rest of it. We have to remember that name. We've been conditioned into hearing the name Russell Crowe. That's Russell Crowe. But isn't it also a little bit Russell Crowe? And I think that says a rather serious IT bloke who feels the need still to wear an earring that he doesn't really need to wear.
Yes, you can imagine people in an office saying, oh, it's terrible, I've got nothing done. I've been on the phone to Russell Crowe. He said he'd be here in 20 minutes and he's not. Could you come into my office, please? Oh, yes, absolutely. Why haven't you got anything done? 2 words, sir. Russell Crowe. Manager's shaking his fist. Russell Crowe!
Dare I bring Michael Jackson into this discussion about prison? I mean, if God forbid he's found guilty, what sort of a life do you think he'll have inside?
Not a good one when they ask, what are you in for?
Just struck me, Will, you can never commit a crime and go to prison, because when you're inside you will be Will Smith.
Yeah. Well,
and others will find that both amusing
and a source of...
and tempting.
Well, I deal with this in my head thinking that I would, of course, teach them all to read and be known as the professor. Whereas
Michael
in my heart, I do know that I would actually be known as the lady. Or the slot machine.
It's all right. But I like the idea of all these sort of middle-class prisoners who are in for computer fraud and perjury. That's what they go in for. Jeffrey Archer. Just going around trying to get brownie points by saying, do you want me to write your letters for you?
Write your memoirs.
Write this down. Here's my letter. Today I beat up Jeffrey Archer for assuming I was illiterate.
I dragged it out. It took all afternoon.
I like the idea of a prison magazine. Does it have different sections for different type of criminal? Heat for arsonists.
Yes, heat for arsonists.
The Guard, Ian.
Or the racist's mail, which is just the same, just rebranded.
Well, OK, just to let you know that in our vote for the best thing ever, the spiralling wire in notepads is doing very well. But just looking at the count so far, the best thing ever, the smile on a newborn baby once you've washed off all the blood and crap. But now we're going to look at boxing in the week that Ricky Hatton became the welterweight champion of the world, reinforcing Britain's reputation for producing world-class wiry psychopaths. But boxing is no longer the old-fashioned sport of the working class, or before them, kings. White-collar boxing has become more popular recently. That's where thousands of middle-class professionals are drawn towards the sport because it releases tension, gets them fit, and makes them look a little bit more butch than they do the rest of the day when they're sitting in Truro supervising the shipment of goods to Halfords. So here to talk about the increasingly popular sport of white-collar boxing, please welcome Kent's white-collar welterweight champion, Mr. Charles Druitt. Okay, Charles, thank you very much for coming on.
It's a pleasure.
What do you do during the day? What's your job during the day?
Well, Armando, I'm an actuary, so I basically calculate the odds and risks for the insurance industry using a range of social and economical data.
Okay, and so it's fundamentally sort of risk assessment then that you're into?
Yes, if you want to be simplistic about it, yeah.
Okay. So how would you assess the risk of boxing?
Sorry, what was the question again?
Well, I was just wondering if being repeatedly punched in the face by a thick glove has damaged you in any way. You're right. Are you okay?
Keep your guard up. Guard.
Would you like a squirt of water?
Cheers, thanks very much. No.
Right. So, as a risk assessor...
Sorry, I don't mean to be picky, but I'm actually an actuary. It's a very different area of work. So,
right.
It's a very specialist area. Yeah.
Okay, and the boxing, what's the amount of training you... Right. See, what I'm gradually realising is that the part of the brain that holds all the knowledge about actuary work is at the back of your head.
Yeah.
Has therefore been relatively protected.
Yeah.
While everything else has... I'm holding up a pen in front of your face.
Are you?
Yeah. What sort of a risk would that pen pose?
Oh, well, that would pose a very interesting risk, actually, Armando, and I'm glad you've asked.
What colour is the pen?
Oh...
Yeah, he's on the floor.
Can I get
I don't know if any paramedics can get it. This is quite worrying. Talk about insurance.
Insurance is a fascinating area.
Okay, yeah, we can walk him off while he's talking about insurance. Thank you very much. Thank you. Yeah. Okay, back to your candidates for the best thing ever. Any more best things ever? Pass them to the front.
Pepsi Max. It's Pepsi, but to the maximum.
Dolph Lundgren in Rocky. He wasn't actually in Rocky, you moron. It's Rocky 4.
Here's an interesting, rather oblique one. Probably ducks. Who makes a better noise?
That would make a good advertising campaign for ducks, I think. Ducks. Who makes a better noise? You honestly say tigers make a better noise than ducks?
You see, the great thing about the duck, we've reached which has never been exploited, is that the face of the duck is at that perfect point between enigmatic and complete and utter stupidity.
A bit like Kate Blanchett.
Yeah. It's that great thing. I mean, the great Jeremy Irons, there was a point in Jeremy Irons' career where he did have a faraway look which somehow conjured up a hamster that had just won the pools.
Funny enough, a hamster winning the pools has been voted number 29.
Yeah.
List of all-time great. Just underneath the sound of the Smashing Pumpkins' Smashing Pumpkins is actually more popular than Stanley Kubrick's Widow. But in the lead at the moment is Michael Flatley sticking his head in a bucket of iced water when he comes off stage, into which the crew have all urinated. Okay, this week has seen a national debate about national debates. Transport Secretary Alistair Darling has announced a national debate on toll roads, and Health Secretary Patricia Hewitt says she wants a national debate on how we pay for health care. Now, national debate here means we've decided already. It's one of a new breed of phrases that try to sound impressive, but actually pour out of corporate mouths like turds on a pig farm. Which, incidentally, is a new entry at number 22. So, team, has anybody said anything to you recently that's made you want to punch them in the face?
One thing that really annoys me is the way government departments seem to get renamed in a way that presumably costs us a fortune. Like the Department of Transport is now the Department for Transport.
Yes.
As if before that their view on transport weren't quite clear. Maybe they hated it. You know, their aim was to get rid of transport, and now they're saying no, we're in favour of transport.
There must be some company whose only job it is to change all the of signs to for.
Yeah. They do a reversal thing and add another letter. And that takes a lot of work.
Yeah, they have to find a lot of R's from somewhere.
Yes.
And from some culture where they don't use the letter R.
Yes. Like Japan, for example.
Yeah. But Japan have never used the letter R, so they're unlikely to have stockpiled it.
Will?
I had a particularly infuriating encounter with jargon recently where I was waiting for a technician to come and fix a projector. And I had to wait in all day. It didn't turn up. So I rang up and said, he hasn't come. And they said, well, that's because it's a best endeavour service. And I said, what do you mean? They said, well, we do our best to endeavour to send someone there, but we might not be able to. Which is so infuriating, because basically they're saying, we didn't send anyone, but they want me to think that with the words best endeavour, I'm going to imagine this guy maybe crawling up my street with arrows sticking out of his back, you know, and with his last dying breath extending a shaking finger towards my doorbell before he's shot in the head, you know. Just like the fact that we don't have any complaints departments anymore anyway. It's all turned into customer services, so it takes any negativity out of it.
I can't tell you how furious I was the other night when I rang the police shouting, there's a man broken into my house with a machete and a Vanessa Feltz mask, shouting, I'll see the Scottish Italian booked in for the tummy tuck now. Right? To which they replied, I hear what you're saying.
Something that's constantly annoying is the number of adverts that use their slogan begins with the word because.
Yes.
You know, because you're worth it, or because life's too short, or because sometimes you just have to buy this product. And the thing is, it's a lie, because first you haven't asked why, you know, why Fanta? I couldn't give a damn. But also the answer is because what we sell we can get more money for than it costs to make. That's why. Because this form of business is profitable. Because, you know, you could say very honestly, you know, whatever, cheese slices, because we don't believe that you could obtain and process cheese for the same cost that we're going to charge you, because, you see, we have massive economies of scale.
That's it. Fantastic marketing technique we've stumbled across, blatant honesty. Hamas, blowing everything up out of proportion. 9/11, putting New York on the map. St Mungo's Hospital, Kent, bringing MRSA to the community.
At the end of the day, it's important for Britain that some people do die. The Metropolitan Police have got a slogan. I can't remember what it is.
Working for a safer London.
Right.
Not hard enough.
Are you kicking what we're kicking?
It's interesting that the slogan isn't in the same font as where it says Metropolitan Police. That's in, like, you know, proper letters, like they might have been typed. But then they want to imply that the working for a safer London has been casually scribbled, you know, by a nice guy who's got a sense of proportion and won't push you down the stairs unless you're really asking for it.
Isn't that just encouraging graffiti, though? Isn't it? We see all these police vans going around where people have scrawled.
Maybe it is just a mass epidemic of pro-police graffiti.
OK, on to the final item. You still with us, Jimmy?
Not really, no.
OK, so last week the show came from the beautiful town of London. And we were planning to take the show on the road to other towns throughout the country, but unfortunately we couldn't be bothered. But that's all right, because a report out this week said that all of Britain's town centres look the same anyway, i.e. a ring of 20 cheap and nasty pubs with the size, charm and customer service of cattle sheds, spilling out into pedestrianised streets rammed with breezer-addled proles, forced to go on a screaming, puking, fighting rampage until they either cram themselves into some rancid, sticky-floored Golgotha of a club where the adults dress like school children, or they have to catch the last bus home. And a Ryman's. I'm actually summarising from the report. Oh, hang on. This is from the International Olympic Committee's report on London. So basically, team, how can we brighten up awful town centres?
I don't see what the problem is with all towns being identical. Because if you move around the country, then it's good. It's sort of comforting that you go, oh, right, I know where I'm going to get fish and chips. I know where I'm going to get, you know, envelopes to push. And if you live there and you don't go anywhere else, then you can pretend that you're in the only town with a W.H. Smith. And you say, oh, yes, W.H. Smith, that's very much a Taunton thing. It's odd. They do stationery, but some books. books. I mean, bafflingly few books, but anyway. Now let me, before you leave, I must show you Greg's the Baker's. They do absolutely marvellous sausage roll. I don't know if you have the concept of sausage or rolling anything up where you're from, stranger, but you'll love it round here.
I'll be with you in a minute. I'm still fascinated by the shelf upon shelf full of magazines about angling. W.H. Smith's.
I mean, you wouldn't like them to go all the way like that episode of The Prisoner, where you just a completely wrong sense of where they are, you know. There's a very, very Cornish setting, an overwhelming supply of pixies and clotted cream, and you find out you're in Aberdeen, you know, and it can give you a terrible shock.
Pixies and clotted cream are delicious, aren't they?
Yeah.
You dip the pixie's head in, and then you bite it off like that, and then you watch the body, which isn't so delicious, scurry around, baffled.
Will?
Different time zones for different cities that make it more interesting when you went there. So Cardiff could be 1712, Birmingham could be 1347, and for fun, Lincoln could be 2489, just to see what they come up with.
But different cities have different time zones anyway, don't they? Helsinki is different from New York.
I thought we were just limiting this to British towns, because they're different anyway, towns in Europe.
Yes, that's true.
Speak.
And also you don't...
There's no Claire's accessories in Helsinki.
You didn't mean...
Bloody annoyed about that. It was kind of a game I like to play in a taxi as the fare is going up. I like to imagine I'm in different ages. And then, you know, once you get past, you know, £20 and 5 pence, whoa! Where am I?
Does that not encourage the taxi driver to charge you for a journey that's lasted 300 years? I think we've resolved that one. OK, we're now down to the grand final of the best thing ever. I've narrowed it down to the two best things ever, which is Leonard Cohen and a little mouse. So we're going to put this to the vote. At the count of three, all those that favour a little mouse shout a little mouse. And all those who favour Leonard Cohen shout not a little mouse. At the count of three, 1, 2, 3.
A little mouse!
I think I was getting a little mouse there.
Yeah.
OK, and what we're going to do is, because we've officially voted a little mouse the best thing ever, we're going to shut Jimmy Carr up once and for all by ringing his home answer machine and leaving it as a message. OK, let's just try that.
Hello, this is Jimmy Carr. Leave me a message. Thanks.
Hi, Jimmy here. It's Armando Lannucci from the Charm Offensive. We've just worked out that the best thing ever is...
a little mouse!
So shut up. Well, there you go. That ends this debate once and for all, apart from next week when we attempt to find the worst thing ever. In the meantime, good night.
That was Armando Lannucci's Charm Offensive, presented by Armando Lannucci. The guests this week were David Mitchell, John Sessions and Will Smith. It also featured Jim Field-Smith. It was written by Armando Lannucci and John Holmes, Ian Martin, Will Smith and Dan Tetzel. And the producer was David Tyler. The programme was a positive production for the BBC.